I have to be honest. I've never been a huge fan of platformers until I first played Limbo. That's when I thought to myself, you know what? That was pretty good. The story, the atmosphere, it was captivating. Then I heard people raving about the game Little Nightmares and thought, this is like Limbo, right? And after playing that, I was hooked. Maybe I'm stuck in this hole where the platformer must be attached to a dark or grim setting or story. But I guess that's just what catches my eye. And now, after playing ReAnimal, my year has been forever changed. And that's not even an exaggeration. Sure, the game's not your traditional platformer, but there's a lot of platformer elements. The game is also by no means perfect, as I feel it was a tad short, and I ran into a bug once or twice where I had to restart to the previous checkpoint. But I could feel the passion that was put into this game. We gotta give a hand to Tarsier Studios for creating such a grotesque yet hauntingly beautiful gem. The creature designs are nightmare feel and the environments are just works of art. I can't even put into words the feeling of exploring new locations and being in awe of the environments. And though the characters don't say much, there's a level of depth and charm to them that makes you sympathize for these kids, trapped in this world they inhabit. A world that has no care for these orphans, or any being for that matter. A world of trauma and despair, consuming everything it can. This is the world of ReAnimal, and it is nothing but a world of horror. To put it into a few words, ReAnimal follows the story of a brother and sister who travel through a wicked world of ungodly creatures to rescue their friends and escape the remains of an island they once called home. Now that may sound like a simple premise, but this game's got layers. What seems like a common narrative of escaping a nightmare turns into a story of loss, trauma, and a fight for survival with an unusual group of friends. And what struck me most after finishing the game is that it's just as depressing as it is horrifying. But we'll get to that soon enough. Right now, I like to focus on the main and terrifying draw to ReAnimal, the unsettling beasts that our young protagonists must face. Within the game, there are 5 main antagonists that our characters meet. The Sniffer, the Pelican, the Mother, the Brook Horse, and the Sheep. Each of these threats are massive in scale and pose a unique challenge to our young group of adventurers. Their appearances are a real treat for those who love creature design. If you ask me, they sort of remind me of the illustrations in those scary stories to tell in the dark books you used to read as a kid. Now, I won't go through each one of these beings in depth, as that would need to be entire videos all in themselves, but I will briefly touch on each. The Sniffer has been considered one of the utmost horrific creatures out of the 5. If you want to talk about unnatural, then he certainly fits that definition. A wolf in sheep's clothing, if you will. Just looking at him, you can clearly see the skin he wears does not exactly fit him, and masks a deeper evil underneath. And what we can see with our very eyes leaves us shaken with fear. Confronting him, our protagonist learned he drives a seedy ice cream truck which he uses to lure in unsuspecting children. It's also theorized he kidnaps and turns his victims into the snake-like skin monsters our characters encounter in the beginning of the game. He is truly an abomination from the depths of the abyss. The Pelican is an elusive creature nestled at the top of a lighthouse. It assumes the appearance of a regular pelican, well, maybe one that the Umbrella Corporation got its hands on. The creature's neck is extremely elongated as well as its gular pouch. The whole thing looks disheveled and straight up bewildered. It also seems like the pelican rules the skies with its millions of seagull followers. And though this thing probably is the most short-lived of all the main creatures that protagonists face, it is the most animalistic, meaning it behaves the most animal-like. Nothing truly insidious, but purely a predator after its prey. The mother is an arachnid-like creature who spawns the Ash children our protagonists come across in the dilapidated orphanage. With multiple appendages, a hairy body, and a dark void in place of her face, the mother is an otherworldly specimen. Compared to the other beasts encountered in the game, she somehow feels different. Maybe it's the fact that she actually seems to care about something other than just herself. It feels as though every other creature is focused on satiating their own appetite. Yet the mother has another focus: her children. But don't let that distract you from the terrifying thought of her scurrying toward you, each limb pitter-pattering on the ground before she grabs you and consumes you into the void. The Brook Horse is, by lack of better phrasing, a messed up looking creature. It's like encountering a hairless animal who's clearly not supposed to be hairless. With a horse skull attached to a skeletal torso sporting long and lanky human arms, this thing is downright disturbing to look at. And if looks weren't the worst part, the Brook Horse is highly aggressive. It's persistent and resilient to a supernatural degree. Able to withstand being shot by a cannon and having its eye gouged out, this abomination is a nightmare to deal with. And personally, of all the chase sequences throughout the game, the Brook Horse created one of the most stressful ones for me. The underwater atmosphere, lighting, and knowing there's a pissed off behemoth chasing our little characters is one hell of a horrifying spectacle. Lastly, the Sheep Beast, our flagship monster, is well worth the journey throughout the game to see in all of its glorious form. Who knew a creature designed from a simple sheep could elicit such horror? The thing that really stood out for this one is its evolution. It's sort of like watching Godzilla evolve in the film Shin Godzilla, which I highly recommend if you have not seen it. The Sheep Beast is an ever-growing monstrosity consuming everyone in its path. With each new soul consumed, the thing scales exponentially in size and, disturbingly, in limbs. That's correct, what starts out as a semi-normal looking sheep quickly becomes an entity of eldritch horror. An entity that seems to have an insatiable appetite and the durability of a god. It's a truly horrifying creature that cannot be stopped and continues to consume to no end. This is what makes it so terrifying, but it's the underlying metaphor of what it serves as that really sticks with you. And that is war. Coming to the final act of this game, our protagonists are introduced to war and the front lines. It's quite a jarring turn of events, yet it doesn't feel completely out of place. Throughout your adventure, you may have questioned what happened to the world, and to finally realize that it has been plagued by war is somewhat surreal. What you may have thought was a supernatural setting becomes more grounded at this point. To think about a group of orphans struggling to make it on their own, consumed by war and its effects, is harrowing. And the Sheep Beast is essentially the personification of it. A hulking, indestructible mass of horror with no prejudice, devouring everyone in its path and leaving nothing but ruin behind. This is war. But even more so, this is trauma. This is the horror that follows our protagonist and the force that has corrupted everything in this game. It's this trauma that motivates our characters' actions and is what ultimately seals their fate. This is the real horror behind ReAnimal, and is what I believe creates such a memorable experience.